there's a saying that strict parents raise sneaky kids. And so by giving kids too much access, then they don't have any guardrails. But by limiting all of the access they get, they find ways to get what they want. And so I think it's really about finding that balance.
If you make something unaccessible, it makes it more curious. So, and you're dealing with children here. So it's like, like, I don't know, I've never had soda before. So for my kids, I don't want them to be, I don't want my kids to find out certain things, like, not from me. I'd rather them learn. I'd rather them learn what those things are from me and my wife and rather than have them sitting down in a room with the friend that they've only known for 6 months or 9 months, and then this friend is introducing them to whatever. The more empowered you are and more you understand how these things work, the more you're going to understand how to execute in the world.
I think if we learn how to harness the effectiveness of AI and what it's supposed to do for us, not to the detriment of us thinking, as long as we use it the right way, it's a phenomenal tool, especially for people that are Viola's age and younger. What the United States did in that MOU is an absolute disgrace because they gave all of the leverage that Iran prior to this preemptive war didn't have.
The main goal is to control or is to get a radical player off the board or to control or to make a radical player play ball. And the radical player is Iran. Everybody knows these guys have been radical since 1978 or whatever it was that they took power, right?
The real escalation in enriched uranium happened after Trump abolished the JCPOA.
It's my understanding is that they violated that agreement from day one when they stopped letting the UN inspectors come in. And that was before Trump was elected. So,
okay. So there is some truth to that. So that's a good point that you bring up.
So when you look at this, it is absolutely the long game. The biggest loser here is Israel. They had no negotiation power, no part in this at all.
We have to still keep Israel at arm's length and keep them as a close ally. Why? Because we rely on so much of their intelligence and there's so many dealings that we have with them. It's a very tangled web that you can't undo. Here are a couple of facts. So his wife, Jennifer Siebel Newsom, and she started a foundation, and it was around gender equity. It's called the California Partners Project. And so one of the issues is that Reuters says that her nonprofit received $4 million raised by Gavin Newsom for some of the donors that also do business with California.
I just think the overall underlining fact that it smells the worst here, and I think everybody's waking up to it and seeing it, is when did all these politicians and how did all these politicians become so wealthy? And it's not just a few, it's a lot. Anytime someone gives you something, you're under their thumb. That's the age-old saying, there's no such thing as a free lunch. And that absolutely, bro, is the freaking truth. There is absolutely no such thing as a free lunch. Everything has a freaking cost. And that's what socialists don't understand. The microplastic thing is a big deal. It's a very big problem. So when we look at all the issues that people have today, like the big thing is the endocrine disruption, which is the hormones, and the fertility. Those are the two biggest things that we're starting to see with the microplastics, and birth rates are declining.
Welcome to the Family Office, planning for the people who matter most.
Seriously, if you have not watched the documentary, you've got to go freaking watch it.
I've seen the guy's face before. He's definitely recognizable, but I did not know he had a documentary. So
it's a documentary.
Check that out.
And he pretty much takes over an entire city and renames it. They take control of the local municipal government. They get elected, like they rename streets. Like it is absolutely freaking wild. And
that's insane.
Yeah, he's mainstream now. But I thought I'd share that with you. So happy Father's Day, Len, belated. I know you probably had a good time.
Same to you. 7 times over, and I only have 2. So, man, you're a father like 3x over me numerically. So, but I got a chance to spend some time with my father, man, and it makes me think about you who lost your father at 12. And sometimes those of us that have fathers, we take them for granted. And as I get older and get wiser, every time that I get a chance to spend with my father. He's 80 now, so I definitely am grateful for that.
Yeah, I was showing Mary the video that you sent me with your mom and her mom, your grandma in the room, and they're all hugging each other. And she's like, wait a minute, I have questions. I got to ask Len. I don't understand the skin color here.
I get that all the time.
I said, that's Len's grandmother and that's his mom. And she went, who? And I went, Len Cooper. And she's like, what? And I was like, yeah. And she's like, how? I have to ask. I have questions. And I'm like, I don't know how it works. I'm just telling you that that's the deal. That's the deal. Yeah. And when you see your mom's
that's
face,
my biological grandmother and my biological mom. And yeah, Black people, we produce all shades, man. And what's interesting is that all of my father's siblings are all dark skinned. He's the only light skinned one. And so I got the dark skinned genes from him and passed on the light skinned genes to my kids.
It's just wild the way that works. It's just wild the way the biology of everything works. And I mean, go figure. You have people that try to argue over biology today. In greats.
No doubt. And the funny thing, just to put a bow on it, is whenever we're around family, like my family, that's extended family, when I take Tasha around, they automatically assume that she's a part of the family instead of me. They're like, so how are we related? And she's like, no, that's my husband that's related to you.
Oh my gosh.
That's
some wild stuff. Yeah. So it's interesting today. I always get on my kids about this and I tell them, I say, you got to learn technology, right? And I'm waiting, because I just think back to, when I was younger and I was growing up and I was coming up and I just had an affinity for technology, and I just remember learning that skill and learning technology, learning computers at that time. It just gave me such an advantage. Because it literally allowed me to springboard out of high school and land in a W-2 world making, $12, $13 an hour. And then from there, within a year or 2 years, I was making $80,000 as a systems engineer. And I was like, this is wild. And they paid for
that was cert. Good back then.
Yeah,
too.
This
that's
is like 2001,
money.
2002.
Yeah, that's good money.
And I'm like, this is awesome. So, and they paid for my certifications, which is great. So I tell them, I say, look, for me, it was computers, and I got it in a time where things were really changing around again. You're getting in a time where in AI, I mean, you could really you could explode with this. I mean, imagine where you could be. So my 6-year-old daughter, and by the way, I think we've talked about this before. I don't put limitations. I mean, I have their Apple ID.
Sure.
So their Apple ID, I can monitor and I can see everything that's happening.
But in terms of getting access to their iPads and what they look at and content and stuff like that, or time limits specifically, yeah.
Yeah. So for example, she's logged into my YouTube, my personal YouTube, and I have YouTube Premium. And the reason why she knows this is because she caught on because my son, one of them, is my third youngest. You had to think about that, Len. He's logged in and they figured it out because they went, wait a minute, Dad's YouTube has no ads, right? So they're like, all right, cool. I like this one. So she's logged in that. So for example, she's logged into that. And I've always been that way with all my kids. I don't do that. And maybe it's just because that's the way my mom and my dad was. They told us about everything and they cautioned us and they said, hey, look, here's what this is. And by the way, if you do it, here's what could happen. And you're like, oh, okay, cool. Like, I understand. Right. Like, I guess my parents always gave us the opportunity to accept the consequences or accept the outcomes of decisions. And while they did shelter us and we grew up in a really nice area, they didn't shelter us to the point where they didn't, hey, look, here it is, and this is the world. So I think that gives advantages to people, I think. Yeah. So anyways,
I would agree with that.
I don't know how, I think we've talked about it before, right?
We did a little bit. And I think, we can take a quick pause about parenting, especially since we were talking about Father's Day and just different styles of parenting, because, there's a saying that strict parents raise sneaky kids. And so by giving kids too much access, then they don't have any guardrails. But by limiting all of the access they get, they find ways to get what they want. And so I think it's really about finding that balance between giving them enough leeway to go out and explore and make their own mistakes and course correct after the fact, as opposed to trying to hover over them like a helicopter parent so they can go and take their, half tops and their short skirts in the backpack to school unbeknownst to you. I'd rather know what they're wearing. I'd rather know, have an idea of what they're doing, but give them the freedom to make their own choices. So I'm with you on that one for sure.
We were talking about biology earlier. I just think it plays to biology. I mean, if you make something unaccessible, it makes it more curious. So, and you're dealing with children here. So it's like, I don't know. I've never had soda before. So for my kids, I don't want them to be, I don't want my kids to find out certain things not from me. I'd rather them learn. I'd rather them learn what those things are from me and my wife and rather than have them sitting down in a room with the friend that they've only known for 6 months or 9 months. And then this friend is introducing them to whatever. Right.
Yeah. Of course, there's limitations on that. Like for me, I agree. Like, for example, I want my kids to know that, hey, if you drink excessively, then you're going to have potentially cirrhosis of the liver. If you drink and you drive, then you can get in an accident. And then I showed them like, hey, look at what happened to this person. Look at how these people were killed, but then on the flip side of it, Mom, sorry, but I let my kids taste what wine and what alcohol tasted like. So they would say, oh, this is nasty. And, they're not drinkers like that. So, the point is I wanted to be the one that controlled their exposure to an extent, like on the extreme end. Like, I'm not going to say, hey, snort this cocaine and see how bad it is. I'm not doing that. So I'm not, so let's not get
SoCal man here. Arrested.
Right. Exposing his kids to LSD.
There you go.
I don't go that far, but at the same time, I don't want my kids to learn about sex from Stan, who's the ninth grader at the school, and they're an 8th grader. Like, that's ridiculous. So I want them to learn that from me. So I don't know how you feel about that.
I'm exactly the same way. And my mom was very similar to that. My mom had a lot of conversations about us. What's interesting is because my mom would always ask us when we came home, hey, how you doing? Anybody make you feel uncomfortable? And she would always ask that. And then followed up. The last question was always, did anyone touch you? Has anyone touched you or made you feel uncomfortable? My mom always had these conversations with us. And I think the touching conversation probably was like every 90 days or so, something like that. I mean, I don't know the exact time, but I know that my mom was thorough about asking those questions. And it was very like, how are you feeling?
Right.
Has anybody, she was always interested in how people made you feel or made me feel. And hey, did anybody get in your space? Did anybody do anything? And then, it's not right. It's not right for this so-and-so for not to touch. And if anyone does, and then, watching my wife, bring into the picture, she brings it a step further and says, if anyone says or threatens you or anything, I'll kill your parents or anything. That's a load of, what, and we'll come and and I'm like, that's what I'm talking about, baby.
Your wife's straight G, man.
I'm all for it. But anyways, my daughter, she's 6 years old. We wrote, there's a little whiteboard. I don't know where it comes from because these kids, they're very creative. They make, my kids, they are very creative kids. And there's this little whiteboard, what I'm talking about? Where like the special ed whiteboard, what I'm talking about?
I used to be an educator, man. So I know exactly what you're talking about.
I know that because I was in special ed for dyslexia. So you went in the back of the classroom and they used the little whiteboard and they drew on it, right? Almost like,
they've modernized it. Like a lot of kids get access to the whiteboard now, just so you know. So
I'm sure they have. I'm sure it's on a tablet now. I'm sure it's not even a little whiteboard.
They do both. They do both. Yeah. They still do both.
I even remember green chalkboards. You remember those? Black chalkboards? Whew, absolutely. Boy, that was disgusting, I mean, gross. But anyways, so we wrote her a little note. My wife wrote her a note. Hey, good morning, Viola. We love you, right? So she wrote us a note back on the whiteboard. But what I discovered is that she's 6. So she took a picture, right, of the note, right? And then she sends it to the chatbot and then says, hey, I want to respond to this. Can you help me respond to this? And she generates a response. So she wrote out, then she watches the chatbot give her the response, and then she reads it and writes out the chatbot's response on the whiteboard and then draws some pictures that the chatbot obviously didn't do. And I went, how do you know that she's doing that? I watched her and I'm like, you watched her do that? That's pretty freaking cool. And I'm going, that's wild to see that type of that. And look, some people might go, oh my God, that's so crazy. But I'm like, dang, this is a pretty cool experiment right here that you're seeing. Because here's the reality behind it. The more empowered you are and more you understand how these things work, the more you're going to understand how to execute in the world. That's just right. Like if you don't know how to use email and apps today, you see generations of people that are being aged out of the system, because if you don't have a smartphone today, how difficult is it to do things?
Oh, no doubt. I mean, having a smartphone now, I always think back, like, where was this all of my life when I was in middle school and high school, when I could have had access to the internet? Of course, that wasn't a thing back then, but it's hard to imagine life without it. And imagine with Viola, she's not going to know life without AI. So for her, she's going to be essentially an AI native. And as long as she has your guidance and Mary's guidance, she'll be able to use it effectively as a tool, as opposed to replacing her critical thinking. She'll use it to be able to get more done in less time. So I think there's too many pundits out there that talk about AI and how it's, erasing our intelligence. And while that's true, I think if we learn how to harness the effectiveness of AI and what it's supposed to do for us, not to the detriment of us thinking, as long as we use it the right way, it's a phenomenal tool, especially for people that are Viola's age and younger.
I just think that any of the fear mongering is all the same fear mongering that I've always heard all my life, which is this is going to do this and this is going to do this. And the reality is that, look, the free market in America destroys 20 to 30 million jobs every year. So, I mean, just by natural free market progression, you're going to have jobs destruction. So if you don't learn this stuff and you don't understand the interaction between it, then I think that just puts you at a disadvantage. Because if you don't understand computers or the world of computers and email and all that stuff today and apps, and you're very lost. Like, it is very difficult because the banks push you on it. Like, all essential services are on it. Government services are on it. Like, you try to do anything by mail today, it's an absolute horror show. So absolutely. I mean, I think it's an advantage. But speaking of advantages, Len,
I see a segue coming.
Speaking of advantages, so far, advantage one, I think, has to go to me, because they did technically sign this MOU and this agreement, and they're currently under negotiations in Switzerland. Some say they're not going so well. I think that's a lot of propaganda. Some say they are going well. If you hear it directly from JD Vance, he says, look, it's an interesting time he said, what did he say? They're very interesting people to negotiate with, right? And you've got the ballyhoo and them walking out and the drama and all that stuff that's ensued behind it and all. But I don't want to overshadow the fact that UK's prime minister just stepped down, and Trump called it out like 2 or 3 days ago. That's the 7th prime minister in 10 years. That country is not in good shape. And the fact that, I mean, Trump pretty much owned the G7, and NATO is, I think, or looks like NATO's at attention now and saying, okay. And you have the PM of Italy begging for a picture with Trump. To me, it's like you look at this and you go, what are these guys distracting us from? What's really, really going on? And Zelensky following him around trying to figure out how to get more money, because that war should have been shut down. I mean, at this point, they're genociding their own people by letting this war go on. I mean, you're erasing civilizations and people that have lived on these lands for hundreds of years or thousands of years are being erased or refugeed away from their own lands. It's like gentrification happening there. So I know that's a lot, Len, that I just threw at you, but you're a 2 masters and a PhD, and I think you could swallow that. But so far, I think victory one goes to me. There is a signed agreement. Now we're in negotiation. The strait is supposedly open. The market says it's open because oil is currently trading at, let's see, Len. Oh, it doesn't even want to come in right now. Oh, $74 a barrel. What say you, sir? Hit me with your best shot.
Okay. So from the standpoint of rhetoric, Chris 1, Len 0. And what I mean by that specifically is that, yes, an MOU has been signed and both parties came, and from day to day, like even when this video comes out, who knows what the reality is going to be in real time. But as of the screening of this video, the MOU has been signed and both sides have agreed to move forward. Now, you talked about all the people like the Italian prime minister, and Macron and, kind of cheesing up to Donald Trump and all of this. Well, the reason why people are really around him like that is because the United States and the negotiation they're having between themselves and Iran is about opening up the Strait of Hormuz, because their economic freedom and their economic prosperity is tied to that. And so because they know they don't have a real say in that, they understand that Donald Trump, being the person he is, he likes to have people around him that suck up to him, that call him the best, that call him the smartest, that call him the greatest. That's the signs of a narcissist. And that's who Donald Trump is. Regardless of how you feel about him or not, that's a fact. So now, but in terms of the two sides coming to an agreement, I am elated about that. Okay. Now, having said that, here's the problem. What the United States did in that MOU is an absolute disgrace, because they gave all of the leverage that Iran prior to this preemptive war didn't have. And what I mean by that specifically is that the Strait of Hormuz was open for business. Cargo ships were going in and out. Oil was traveling freely. And the main crux of the MOU is to get the strait open, which it was already before the war started. So to me, I don't call that a victory. It's like if I ram into you in a car and then I have and you have a conversation with the tow company and say, no, I want a better price for the tow company, and you get it for 50% off. Then you walk away saying, man, I won, but I just ruined your car. I put your car in a situation where you had to spend money and you're actually net worse off. So let's go back to the last thing you just said before you turned it over to me. You said, let's take a look at oil prices. It's $74. And gas prices before the strait was even closed, before the war started, was in the 60s. And so now it's down from 100. So bravo, that's awesome. And I'm happy about that. And I'm happy the MOU was signed. But we can't call this a victory. I got a lot more to say, but I want to give you a chance to jump in and respond.
I think that you have to look at it and understand the long game with it. And here's how I process it. The main goal is to control, or is to get a radical player off the board, or to control, or to make a radical player play ball. And the radical player is Iran. Everybody knows these guys have been radical since 1978 or whatever it was that they took power, right? Mm-hmm. Okay. The current regime. The regime that's run by clerics going back 1,000 years.
The Ayatollahs, since 79. Yep. Mm-hmm.
Okay. So, yes, the strait was open before this, but the strait was open with the guys that this country was going to play ball, and it's in an unrational state. No one knows what they're going to do, and they sponsor terrorism, and they sponsor groups and they actively, openly say they want to kill people, and they want to kill Israel, and they want to kill America. Since day one, okay? So they actively been an aggressor. No one denies that. There was a nuclear program deal, right? The JC, whatever, the Obama deal. But that
JCPOA.
deal that deal was no longer active and in effect anymore, right? Because they violated it in all these other drama that was going on. So we know that. And we do also know that even with that agreement in force, in them violating it, they enriched uranium and got closer, since that agreement was signed, to having the ability to create a nuclear weapon. So there in itself, we got worse off, right? Okay. So everything's worse, right? You agree with me, right? Everything's worse. Okay. They got closer to making a They got closer to making nukes since that JCPOA agreement was signed. They have gotten closer.
let me make a critical correction, and then I'll let you go ahead and finish cooking. Okay, so the JCPOA agreement, I read it, and I read it, but I researched it, and I didn't go through the whole 160 pages.
You AI summarized it.
Yeah, so I went through and learned the general tenets of it. And so what it said specifically was that uranium should not be enriched more than 3.6%, and you can't have more than 300 kilograms of it. And so up until that point, while the JCPOA was not perfect, Iran had been adhering to the tenets of that agreement. In 2018, Trump came and tore it up. And then after that, that's when the higher levels of enriched uranium started to happen. So the real escalation in enriched uranium happened after Trump abolished the JCPOA agreement. So I just wanted to make that quick correction, but go ahead and proceed.
I'll have to look it further into that. So touche for you on now for that, but I will look into that because it's my understanding is that they violated that agreement from day one when they stopped letting the UN inspectors come in. And that was before Trump was elected. So,
okay. So there is some truth to that. So that's a good point that you bring up.
So the data's like trying to...
They didn't adhere to it perfectly because they were finding ways to avoid the IEA. Yes. I don't remember the exact acronyms, but
we'll find out what it is. We'll find out what it is.
The governing board that came to, monitor it, they were trying to find ways to work around them, but there was still a governing body in place to oversee it. So they were still able to minimize it. And then I'll turn it back over to you. But after Trump gave up the agreement, there was no governing body to watch them at all. So therefore, because they didn't have any oversight, that's when the real excess in production and enrichment started to happen.
No, I think that's when the excuse came, because here's how I see it. When we talked about this before, if your mortgage payment is $2,000.01 and you only pay $2,000 for the next 6 months, they're going to evict you. They're just, because you can't just say, oh, I almost adhere to the agreement. Because here, that's the problem we're seeing again right now with the negotiations right now. These guys want to skirt by as much as they can. So you're seeing the same exact BS right now while we're negotiating with them. And that exact BS is what you just said. Oh, you can't be greasy about this. And here, and I think that's where, and because of that, that's going to even build more on my point previous when I go back, right? Okay. So it's my understanding that they violated that. So we're clear on that, but let me jump backwards into it now. Here's the problem. When Obama went in and did the JCOP, right? He signed it. He went in there and am I saying it right? The JCOP?
JCPOA.
Okay, the JC, the first agreement.
Yeah.
The first document. It doesn't even matter because it's a corpse at this point because they violated it. It's just like, here's how we should frame it. The first contract they violated, right? Obama, okay. Obama came in and did it nice to them. So Obama was the commander in chief. I agree with his diplomacy. I think Obama, look, I'm not an Obama fan. Right. And I think, Obama did a lot of crazy things. And I think his virtues are not in alignment fully with what American virtues are. But at the same time, I think Obama was still a pretty decent president. I think he was still aggressive. He still did some military stuff. He was still, I think he proved himself, I think. Mm-hmm. I don't think he was that bad. I know some people would shred me apart for that. And I don't think it was that bad.
We talk the topics. We're not here to put anybody as a demigod or anything.
Look, Bush Jr. got lucky with 9/11 and then he threw that garbage on Obama. So Obama had a lot of garbage handed to him. Mm-hmm. Right. I mean, when he came in office, he was in 2008, right? It was 2008, right? So, mm-hmm. I mean, think about it. He inherited all that nasty, the 2008 Great Recession. That wasn't really his fault. That was before his time. Okay. Mm-hmm. That was Clinton and Bush Jr.'s fault. Right, okay. Right. Mm-hmm. So, but here's the thing. When Trump goes in here and does this deal, that's the problem. There was no meat. There was no enforcement behind Obama's deal. Okay. And Iran knew that. Iran knew it's like having laws and then there's no police to enforce the laws. It's kind of like LA.
Okay.
Right? I mean, it's kind of like LA is like, like seriously, Kurt Russell, please come out of retirement and please refilm Escape from LA, but do it live action in LA today. And it's perfect for today. I'd love to see that. If you have never seen that movie, go see it, because that's exactly what's going on in LA and New York right now. But I'm not going to digress. Okay. Sorry, Len. So that's what's happening right now. Trump goes back in and says, okay, we need to make a deal, because we all know, and we're not going to argue that point, Iran is not responsible enough to have a nuclear weapon, right? They just aren't. It's like giving your child a driver's license or a gun, to be extreme. They're just not trusted with it. They cannot be trusted. They've proven that they cannot be trusted. Okay. And by their words and their actions, cool. They made a deal, which means they at one point said, we won't do it. So we're going to give you another deal. The difference here is that Trump went in and said, oh, cool. Here's a taste of what's going to happen if you violate it again. And now we're going to neutralize you, bring you back a little bit down to neutral. And now we're going to make an agreement with you. See, Trump showed them the enforcement first, then came in and did the agreement. That's what's different this time. We all know we need an agreement. We all know Trump. The main thing is Iran can't have a nuclear weapon, because eventually what's going to happen one day, Len, is they're going to blow up the Strait of Hormuz. They are. They're just going to blow it up. And then everyone's going to go, what are we going to do? Iran did it. Well, we've been trying to tell you guys this since 1978. They were going to do this. You're scratching your heads on why they did it now. And then we all have a bigger problem, because then the Strait of Hormuz is going to be closed for the next 100 years. And then good luck. But I am excited because U.S. has just overtaken Russia as the number one net exporter of energy. Go USA, baby. So Len, back at you. I just think this agreement has teeth, whereas Obama's didn't have teeth. Obama gave him everything up front with nothing in the back.
Oh, very interesting. Okay, let's break that down. Okay, give me some time, because I'm going to go through your points. So one, you talked about enforcement. Okay, yes. First of all, the United States agreed to pay $300 billion of reparations.
The United States is not paying. No. It's not.
Okay,
the United States paying reparations.
I'm going to finish.
It's not U.S. tax dollars.
I didn't finish my sentence. The United States agreed to $300 billion of reparations. Now, the stipulation, and they're going to work out the details of the MOU, is they're saying that the other regional places will pay to help build up and, give them their construction companies and all of that stuff. I think it creates another pathway for the United States to come in, but that's neither here nor there. The other part of it, I
agree with you by the way, because that's common. By the way, it's common.
The other aspect of that is that there was another $24 billion of assets that the United States has. And so they're releasing those assets, and they're allowing the other part of it, which is to allow oil sanctions to go away, essentially. So before even any enforcement takes place, the United States, they're relieving them of sanctions, which is going to enrich the IRGC. And then they're providing an economic build-up infrastructure, whether it's from other countries or from the United States, to come in and provide more money. And Trump complained about the $1.87 billion that Obama shipped in cash on a plane. But the overall benefit in terms of the economic enrichment to the country, the two between the JCPOA and the MOU, they're not even close. And then you talked about enforcement. No, let me finish. Go ahead. Go ahead at that point. But make it quick and I'll jump in. Okay, go ahead.
That's the key word you just said there. Investment. See, this is an investment, and it's not U.S. tax dollars. This is an investment, which means this is going to triple X, quadruple X return to these countries that invest in this infrastructure.
Okay.
It's an investment.
Okay, let's just assume that your assumption is correct. Here's the problem with that, is that the one key word you said a long time ago before I started talking was enforcement. There's no enforcement teeth on here. They talk enforcement like, hey, if they violate the terms of the agreement, it's not even defined. So you might say, okay, well, they have 60 days to define what enforcement looks like. Okay, great. But as of right now, and again, if new facts emerge, I'll adjust my thinking. But as of right now, what is happening is that without enforcement, the Iranians are getting access to $12 billion and they're getting relief of sanctions without any nuclear enrichment promises. There's not anything. You can go through the 14 points of the MOU. There's nothing in there. And so then when you talk about the JCPOA not having teeth, the two documents aren't even comparable. Even the right-wing conservatives are saying the MOU falls far short of what it should. And so the reason why is because it is a concession to the Iranians. They get everything they want. They get leverage over the Strait of Hormuz. They get access to their cash that they had. They also get relief of oil sanctions, which allows them to sell oil, which is going to bring back an approximate $100 billion more that the JCPOA never gave them access to. Why? Because the JCPOA said that in order for us to relieve sanctions, you need to make sure that you keep the enriched uranium below a threshold. So what happened? We talked about this. They didn't adhere to that. So that's why the sanctions continue to happen. That's why when you look at the Iranian currency is amongst the worst in the world because their economy was thrashed because of the sanctions. And so what happens right now is Iranians, they have to be, especially the IRGC, they have to be pretty happy because when you go through the points of the MOU, there's nothing in there that has teeth with regard to their nuclear enrichment program. The number one thing that the MOU does is it opens back up the strait. Why is that important? Because the other countries and the G7 and the allies rely on that oil to keep their economies good. And two, the overwhelming majority of people outside of Trump's base, which is about 30% of the population, disagree with this war altogether. And so because of that, the Republicans and the Conservative Party understands that the midterms will be a problem. So Trump feels an immense amount of pressure, whether he says it or not. His actions are proving that his number one objective is to pull out of the war and to get the strait back open. Those are his objectives. And that's the reason why the MOU is worded the way it is.
And I think that it's way too easy for someone to sit there and look at it and go, okay, this is what's happening. But again, I'm going to go back to the long game on it, Len. I don't think everything's fault. Anyone would be a fool to say anything is absolutely 100%. Because look, in a good deal,
I agree with that.
In a good, fair deal, everyone leaves the table unhappy.
Mm-hmm.
Nobody leaves the table fully happy. And we're not going to. And Trump already knew that. Trump already knew that he wasn't going to get everything he wants. Now, it would also be foolish for anybody to listen to Trump and say, oh my God, 100% of everything he says. Just like you'd be a fool to listen to 100%
any politician.
Well, even Elon Musk, right? Because Elon Musk speaks with a lot of bravado and a lot of,
Yeah.
So there is all of those. So you always have to implore Pareto principle. You always have to implore that when you're listening. The key differentiator here is that Trump already knew this, that Trump plays chess. The rest of the world is still trying to figure it out. They can't. They still can't. So when you look at this, it is absolutely the long game. The biggest loser here is Israel. They had no negotiation power, no part in this at all, right? In Iran, absolutely. Give them back their money. Let them feed their people. Let them keep the lights on. Let them do all these things. The enforcement, Len, already happened. Iran already knows now. If we act up, they're going to blow the shit out of us. That's it. And this time, they're not going to do it, obviously. They're going to do it Venezuela style. That's how it's going to happen to them. If we could do it to Venezuela, we could do it to them. And now, and here's the other reality. We have time to negotiate on this, and we're going to drag out those negotiations, and Trump's going to drag them out and deal make them to death. But here's the thing. Yeah, the strait's open now. That was the goal. Get the strait open. Let these allies stop crying. Get the pressure out of there. But now this gives us leverage back. It gives us all leverage back. And at the end of the day, Len, if it all goes south and these guys don't play ball, Len, it's a get out of jail free card for America. We get to pull out scot-free and say, hey, look, we tried. You guys are all crazy, and we got to go focus on the Western Hemisphere. And then again, at the bottom of it all is the fact is that though they can't develop a nuclear weapon at least for another 60, 100 years, because that crap is so far buried underneath the freaking dirt, Len, that Jesus Christ himself would have to come down here and resurrect that stuff for them. And I know he ain't going to do that. So good luck with them trying to get that. Everybody severely overestimates and underestimates. Don't be so overestimated and underestimated, because here's the reality too. They have no Navy. They have no Air Force. They have no military. They have nothing. What they have is their strategic guerrilla type hide in caves warfare. It's the inverse of jungle warfare, except it's in the desert with mountains and desert and all the way they do it. Look, it's done for, and they know that. They already know that. It just irritates me when you see. I'm sorry, dude. It's done. It's over with. And again, at the end of the day, Len, if it all goes to caboodle, the long play is this: Trump's hoping maybe. Trump's like, hey, 50% chance they play ball. 50% chance they don't. And if they don't, we don't care, because it gives us an opportunity to pull out and say, good luck, NATO.
Okay, but this is the part of your estimation. This is the part of... Okay,
and Obama
let's talk
didn't rally
about Trump.
a coalition.
Let's talk about
Obama didn't rally. Obama didn't rally with his agreement that they violated. He didn't rally a Middle Eastern coalition around it. That's
not a Middle Eastern, but he did with the allies. But let's talk. Let's talk about
the allies
your
are useless.
Okay, but
they've proven that though. They're useless. They proved that. That's why Stammer stepped down, and that's why Prime Minister of Italy is about to step down probably too, because they know they're useless.
Okay, so let's take that point that they're useless. Okay, we'll set that aside. I want to talk about some of your points that you addressed. One is you talked about that Iran would blow up the Strait of Hormuz. It is not in their economic interest to do that, because they're getting ready to get a major payday from all the oil that flows through it. So for them to do anything that disrupts that would be economic suicide. And if one thing that we can agree upon is that no matter what, you follow the money. It's all about the economy. That's one. The other one is you said that Israel was the biggest loser. I would agree with that. And I believe that Trump understood that he had to strong arm Netanyahu to let people know, like, hey, look, because he had been hearing that Israel was the tail that was wagging the United States dog. So he had to punk him a little bit. And he can do that because we have all the leverage over Israel. However, we have to still keep Israel at arm's length and keep them as a close ally. Why? Because we rely on so much of their intelligence, and there's so many dealings that we have with them. It's a very tangled web that you can't undo. So that's another one. The other one is that you talked about Trump wanting to drag the negotiations. I believe that Trump wants nothing less than to drag these negotiations. Here's why.
He wants to. He wants to drag them.
No, he doesn't. Let me tell you why. So think about, make your counterpoint after I make this point. So the reason why he doesn't want these talks to be drug out, listen to his rhetoric. When JD Vance and when Kushner and the other guy was in negotiations with the Iranians, they walked out. They were like, look, we're done. And they, all of this posturing. And then what did Trump do? He went on Truth Social and was like, I will blow you guys up before you even get an opportunity to get home. You better get this thing done. That rhetoric, like, nobody really thinks that he'd actually blow them up, on their way back home. But Trump's done enough to make people stop and pause and say, okay, he probably won't do it, but we don't want to test with our lives and make that gamble. So Trump, the reason why he had to do that is because these negotiations need to be done quickly. So here's the point. Because Trump needs this to get done before the midterms, because 30% of your base is not going to carry you over. If he had 60% or even a slight majority of people who supported this war, he'd be fine. Drag it out. No problem. Because, as long as there's a ceasefire, no people are getting killed, specifically American soldiers. Drag it out as long as you want, because we've got the time. Because as long as you have oil that's not flowing and we're open for business, great. But that's not the calculus mathematically. The calculus mathematically is he's got to get this done before the midterms. And so because of that, the Iranians know it. And here's the last point before I turn it over to you. Because the Iranians now have leverage over the Strait of Hormuz that they did not have before this war, is that they can at any point in time drop a bomb on a ship that's passing through, tell a ship that's passing through, hey, we're going to charge you a toll, $1 for every barrel that comes through. They have now all of these levers they can manipulate to stop the negotiations the moment the United States does something that the Iranians don't like. That's so much leverage. And you know what? They can wait this out as long as they want. And so I said last point, but let me make this one last point, because you talked about the fact that they were in, caves and all of their stuff is blown up. Here's the thing, Chris, that you're underestimating. The Iranians have they have raw materials to build so many drones to create asymmetric warfare. They can build a drone between $10,000 and $70,000, depending upon the capability they want, to take out ballistic missiles that are $3 or $4 million in the stockpiles of the United States and Iran with the Golden Dome. So they can do that ad infinitum. So one of the things they're doing I believe, with this ceasefire is they're just building back up their stockpile of drones. So if the United States or Israel wants to attack again, they'll send out those Shahed drones and take them out with these swarming drones. They can't stop it. So 35,000 versus 3 million. Eventually that calculus is going to tilt over into their favor.
I get the lumbering dinosaur effect that you're trying to paint there, but I just don't see how that maths out. First and foremost, their industrial base was destroyed. I mean, I don't think a modern military, even if it was France's military, they would have taken out their industrial base. And that's the first thing we did. So I know that the media and the news would like other people to believe that we were inept and we didn't do those things, but I mean, any modern military knows you destroy the industrial base, because then that alleviates the problem of them doing exactly what you just said. They can't build anything right now. And let alone the finances. That's the reason why they came so fast to the table, Len. They knew they were on death ground. They were facing imminent death. They couldn't even feed themselves. They have no money. They're locked out of the world. They're on an island and they can't do nothing. And everyone's saying, oh, they're just going to build Shahed drones with what? With the factories that we destroyed? Like, I don't understand. I don't understand why there's so much propaganda floating around right now that makes the United States look inept. We decimated them. It's over. It's done. Like the white flag, they waved the white flag. And yes, they're trickery and there's all these things and they're cunning and all of these different things.
You have no evidence of that, Chris, but keep going.
But you don't have evidence either, Len, that they can rebuild Shahed drones. The United States military said, yeah, we went in there and destroyed their industrial base. Okay, we destroyed their industrial base. So until proven otherwise, I'm going to go to bed at night and go, Iran doesn't have an industrial base. I mean, because realistically, France's military could do that. And France's military has one aircraft carrier, and we got like 20.
I would say the only evidence that's going against you, Chris, is that Russia did everything they could to destroy Ukrainian.
No. But here's the problem, Len. Iran didn't have a United States behind them giving them $400 billion in weapons. Ukraine does, along with NATO giving them everything.
That's a good point. That's a good point.
And furthermore, Putin doesn't want the war to end because Putin needed that war, Len, because that war drives his economy because the U.S. is sanctioning the crap out of him. So he needs that war. He changed his economy to a war economy by invading Ukraine, and it was if you look at that, I know Vladimir Putin is a villain to a lot of people, but let's look at him for a second and go, dang, that was some pretty genius strategy there, dude. Like you completely changed your military to a military economy because you were under sanction from the US, and you did it in such a way where it could be dismissed a little bit because Ukraine was really part of the Soviet Union anyways. So slick the way he did that, right? But you can't look at the same thing because there's no 900 silverback gorilla, 900-pound silverback gorilla, the United States, behind Iran like it is we are with Ukraine. I think that, you know what I mean? So you got to put all those pieces together, I think, before you can draw that.
You make a very good point there, but and I would agree with that part of it. The point that I was trying to make is that the Ukrainians, what they did, which was so ingenious, is they created a completely different style of warfare with the drones. And it's an asymmetric warfare where the small guy with limited resources can pump out huge, massive amounts of drones. And so what I'm saying is that the Iranians, they have enough money coming in to be able to create that type of asymmetric warfare. That was my main point. It wasn't about the United States backing them.
But here's the problem, though, I have when that emphasis is made, because when you make that comment or you make that statement, you go Iran, and then you go like this with U.S. You get what I'm saying? So you're like, well, the U.S. doesn't understand this. Look, we've been drone warfaring before anybody. You don't think we've got drones that are 10x better than Len? I promise you right now, the United States probably has drones where it's like a baseball and you could throw it in the air and it probably releases 1,000 honeybee-sized drones. Like, I wouldn't doubt it if we had that kind of stuff.
Well,
you see the president, by the way, walks around with the EMP gun now. Did you see that? Did you see the EMP guns? Have you seen those?
I didn't see that, but there's definitely. I want to be very clear. I'm not trying to advocate for Iran, and I'm not saying that the technological prowess is not clearly a part of the United States and their benefit. We definitely have the world's strongest military in the history of the world. What I am saying, though, is that we are fighting from two completely different perspectives. And based on the perspective in which the United States and Iran are fighting two completely different types of wars with two different outcomes. The United States has the outcome where they wanted to, at least that was the initial story, for the Iranians to deplete their nuclear weaponry so they don't become an existential threat to the world. And the Iranians are saying, look, we want to survive and we want to thrive economically. And in order for us to do that, we now have leverage on the Strait of Hormuz. And so you can shoot your $3 million missiles at us, but we can take 1,500 $10,000 weapons and completely swarm those things. And so the United States would have to spend a lot of time and resources to combat that for a different set of reasons. So does the United States have the capability to match that? Of course. But when we talk about asymmetrical warfare, there's two different outcomes. The Iranians are simply trying to survive. The United States is trying to win and create economic benefits for themselves and other partners. So there's two different objectives. And that's what I mean by that. So I'm not talking superior, inferior. There's just two different objectives between the two countries.
And I see your two objectives. But again, if Iran wants to play ball and prosper and do all the things that they say they want to do, then play by the rules. Why can't they play by the rules? Why do they have to not play by the rules? Because they have a set of ideals, and those set of ideals, Len, are our way and no one else. We want to kill everybody.
So here's my question:
will die because you're all infidels to us.
Okay. So here's my question:
Len,
with the MOU, go ahead.
Go ahead, because it's going to be about an MOU. So
So with the MOU, here's my question. What in the MOU gives the United States the ability to hold Iran accountable?
Well, first of all, it's performance based, right? So they have to do performance based things to unlock it. And it's right. They have to hit certain targets. It's performance based.
It's not in there. That's not clearly laid out in the MOU.
But that's where the negotiations, and it is performance based. So that's where the enforcement comes in, Len. It all goes back to the enforcement. They already know we're not going to hesitate. When they blink, we're not going to blink. And they know that now. So yes, if they go and play games, like you said, will they have leverage over the Strait of Hormuz? They don't. They think they might, or some crazy maniac might think that they do. But the second they blink on that Strait of Hormuz, it's going to be game over for them. And we'll take the Strait of Hormuz from them. And it's not, and it won't be in a way.
We would have done that already.
No, but we won't see, because the chance has to be given, because it's not going to be us that takes the Strait of Hormuz. It's going to be the regional coalition. It's going to be those guys there, the Qataris, the Pakistan. Len, look, when you've got to look at the way that Trump put this around.
They would have to be boots on the ground. They're not going to risk. No.
You don't have to do Len. That's where the technological prowess comes in. Look, if we wanted to take that thing, we could have taken it.
We wanted it. We wanted access to it, because they could have gone to the island right there and put boots on the ground. That's what Lindsey Graham was calling for. He wanted to go in there and completely take over.
But that's the rhino thing. Trump's not a war guy like that.
I agree. I don't think that's the right move. I'm just saying.
Long term, this is the get out of jail free card we've all been asking for. If it all goes to crap, we are not going to blink. And we're either going to say game over, or we're going to say,
the only
see you guys later.
The only get out of jail free card, brother, is that the United States and Iran agrees to a ceasefire, and the Strait of Hormuz goes back to where it was before the war started. That's the get out of jail free card.
I agree. Well, speaking of get out of free cards, as we switch up gears here,
you're going.
We could do a special here. That's a good one. What are your thoughts, Len? Because this is serious, and I think he knows it's serious, and I don't think it's not. I think it is serious. I mean, it looks serious. I looked at a couple things today. But what are your thoughts about the probe, the DOJ probe, and the investigation into Newsom and his wife, and the unfiled or behested? Like, did you see the list, by the way? It's some serious coin. Serious coin coming in. I mean, that we all know he's dirty. I mean, he's been dirty since his personal drama that he had when he was lieutenant, or he was mayor, and then he was lieutenant governor or heir apparent to Jerry Brown. I mean, this guy's been in office for decades. We already know he was dirty. You could just tell by his hair that he's dirty. I mean, anybody's got hair like that, in the way he talks. Right? So I don't want to talk about anybody, but I mean, seriously, what do you think is going to go on there? What's your thoughts on that as a current Californian?
All right, Newsom. So here are a couple of facts. So his wife, Jennifer Siebel Newsom, and she started a foundation, and it was around gender equity. It's called the California Partners Project. And so one of the issues is that Reuters says that her nonprofit received $4 million raised by Gavin Newsom for some of the donors that also do business with California. So think about lobbyists and people who have a financial interest and saying, oh, I'll support your wife's nonprofit, but help us out so we can, shake each other's hands. That's one thing. And then the other thing is, there's another report back in 2021. The Sacramento Bee said that, Jennifer Siebel Newsom's nonprofit paid her more than $2.3 million since its founding. So the Department of Justice has recently gone after them starting in 2025, but the Sacramento Bee's been going, and investigating them for quite a long time. Now, obviously, Sacramento Bee, they're just investigative journalists, but nonetheless, there's enough smoke there to suggest there's some improprieties. And earlier you talked about Gavin Newsom was charged $31,500 for failing to timely file 18 behested payment reports. And essentially what behested means is like a public disclosure of donations and solicitations. And so because he was late in filing that, he had to pay a late fee. So there's two things. One is that there's smoke there. There is a legitimate reason to investigate both Gavin Newsom and his wife, Jennifer, based on taking money and raising money over the period of years and years and years. Now, his argument was, he went on TV and he's like, look, you can come after me, but leave my wife out of it. Well, as men, we have a desire to protect our wives. Now, if his wife is wrong, she should be investigated. And if she's liable, she should be held to account. And so I agree with all of those things. And I think that it's important for us, like for me, when I look at Gavin Newsom, I look at him from the standpoint of, okay, I'm going to judge you based on your record. I'm going to judge you based on your dealings. And to me, he deserves to be at least called out, and his wife deserves to be called out for some opportunities that they took advantage of, potentially, of soliciting funds and using donors to, line up their pocketbooks for other favors. Now, they have not been found criminally liable. They have not been convicted. And so we have to see what happens with the investigation. But I think that we should have energy in saying, regardless of how you feel about Gavin Newsom, if there's smoke, there's fire. And at least there is some evidence that there's a suggestion that there was some ethics that were gray on one end. At least there's been that. On the other end, they've been using their political positioning for economic gain on the other end. So I definitely, I think there should be some other investigations. And also the other one is that Dana Williams was his former chief of staff. She also worked for the Biden.
Criminally, right?
She's been found guilty. You said she pleaded guilty to conspiracy to commit bank fraud, and so that's a pretty damning person to be associated with. That is not a good look. It's not a good look. Close to the fire. 100%. It's not a good look.
I just think the overall underlining fact that it smells the worst here, and I think everybody's waking up to it and seeing it, is when did all these politicians and how did all these politicians become so wealthy? And it's not just a few, it's a lot of them are wealthy and very 100%. Successful, yeah, and have no prior business success before politics. So it's like, how did this happen all of a sudden? And Len, I know how hard you work. I know how hard I work. And I'm going, what am I doing wrong here, dude? Because like, what's going on with these politicians?
The political game is a very profitable game. That is a fact.
And then you stack on that the fraud that's going on with everything. I just think it creates a perfect opportunity for a lot of people to be extremely upset and a lot of people to be extremely irritated with the thing. Look, I don't think anything's going to happen to him unless they actually really find the dirt. And I think there's probably some dirt there. I mean, how do you get that wealthy? I mean, I just don't understand it. So there's probably some really slimy cronyism that's gone on there, but I don't think anything will get found out. I think if anything, it's there to throw him off from trying to do anything political outside, because he knows he's cooked anyways, because California's shambles. I mean, everybody knows that. No one's going to argue that. The shambles, and he's out of office here in a couple of months, in a few months, whatever it is, right? It's at the end of this year. Is it the end of this year he's out?
Yeah, next election cycle, they get a new governor. Yeah.
He doesn't really, I think what Gavin is trying to do right now is he's trying not to be the next Kamala Harris. I don't think and what I mean by that is that she's pretty much obscure now. I mean, no one's going to elect her. Did you see the poll where she even polls better than him?
I haven't seen that.
They polled it, and Kamala Harris still polls better than Gavin nationally. So I think Gavin Newsom's coming out of there and going, I mean, because you imagine that type of ego, Len. Like, what are you going to do now, bro? Like, what does he do after leaving the governorship of California? Because the guy's been in public office since.
Dude, he's going to run for president. We all know
so?
that.
I don't think he has a chance,
brother. He's definitely going to run, and he even alluded to it. He gave a video, like a talk just a couple of days ago. And he said, the reason why this is all happening is because, I've been considering running for the 2028 election. Trump, you can come after me, but leave my wife out of this. And so he didn't make any announcement that he was running, but he's not denying that he's going to run. So, but here's the question that I have for you, Chris. When you look at politicians on both sides of the aisle, I'm talking Republicans, Democrats, independents, people who serve in the local legislature, all the way up to the Senate and the House.
Yep.
When the system is set up where, okay, if I'm an assemblyman, this is kind of how the lobbyists work. They'll find somebody who is already aligned with some of their thoughts and some of their beliefs and ideologies, right? And so then what they do is they see that this is a person that's up and coming, so they groom them over time, and they say, hey, listen, you can run for city council. Okay, I see that now you're city council. Go for the assembly position, and then go for, the House, and go for the Senate. And so if you've been, in the game since you're in your 20s, and you're smart and you're ambitious and you want to make a living, but you also want to make a difference, and you see these people with deep pockets that's able to pave your way to the top. Once you get to a level where you're making hundreds of thousands and millions of dollars and all of these different dealings, and you've been in that space for so much time, how does one decide to walk away from all of that? Because here's the thing. If I'm in an environment where I'm seduced all the time by the things that I want, and it's always around me, and there's a way for me to get it, how many people out of 100 walk away from that? So I'm not at all excusing politicians for doing what they're doing. What I'm saying is that there's other outside forces that are influencing their thinking and paving their way with regard to how much money they make and how what they can do and under the guise of making a difference and being a public servant. But they're almost groomed. How do you overcome that?
I think that's a very big point that you make, and it's not just in politics; it also is in entertainment. I mean, it's
100%.
Who is the girl that just
athletics, entertainment, politics, 100%.
The Lilo and Stitch gal. Did you hear about that? That she just passed away. The girl Lilo and Stitch.
I did not.
Yeah, I can't remember. I mean, rest in peace, right? Lilo and Stitch. Lilo and Stitch directors honor Davy Chase. Dava Chase. I don't know, I'm probably saying her name wrong, but she was the actor or actress. She's young gal in Lilo and Stitch.
Wow.
Yeah, and she just recently passed away.
Oh, yeah.
At 35.
Yeah. Wow. Yes, I see. Yes.
Okay. So she just passed away at 35. Wow. And they were showing, so obviously I was watching some stuff about it. And this, to your point, and there's a video of Diddy. And she's like 14 and she's at the award show, and Diddy comes up to her and goes, "You coming to the after party, right? You coming to the after party, right?" Like, asked her twice. I'm going,
14, brother. Are you serious?
This is when she was little, right?
Bro.
And I'm like, bro, like, you're right, Len. How do you? Because it's in entertainment, it's in sports, it's in freaking politics, it's in all of it, the grooming stuff, all of it. It's in all of it. So to answer your question, I don't know, Len, because it's very difficult. It's very difficult today
because you're fighting human nature. That's the thing. Like when you get, like, if it's easy for us. Again, I'm not giving any of it a pass. It's easy for us on the outside that doesn't have the same access, that's not bombarded with all of that all the time, to say, oh yeah, we're good and you're bad. I'm just saying that, considering the amount of exposure they get, there's got to be a way to combat that, but I just don't know what that is. Like, because you can't legislate morality. How do you create guardrails for, especially for politicians? Because, there's got to be some type of campaign finance reform, because, I mean, you can find ways to make campaign contributions where they're indebted to you.
Here's where I think
that lady that contributed $300 million, the Iranian, Israeli. But go ahead.
What'd she donate to? I don't know what you're talking about. Who donated $300 million?
It was a lady to Trump. It was $300 million for the Gaza thing. But go ahead. I'll get that information, so I'm not just talking.
I think the problem is this, Len, is that we're so focused on all these stupid things all the time. Like, for example, the Strait of Hormuz. Mm-hmm. We're focused on the Strait of Hormuz, but we're not focused on all the kids being trafficked all over the place, right?
Good
like,
point.
For example, I don't remember the name of the guy, but there's this girl. She was this lady. She was just recently on his show, and she's talking about the loophole on how you can adopt children and then traffic them, because there's a loophole with it. And she breaks it down, and I'm going, well, see, that's the problem. And Congress knows about this loophole. And we could probably talk about this later or on a different show and see more facts, but look into it, because I will too, because I just started looking into it, because the child trafficking thing is just absolutely crazy. And the reason why I look up the child trafficking thing is because Becerra could potentially be governor of California, and he was under scrutiny and all of that stuff under the Biden administration for this stuff. So
just a quick fact check, $100 million from Miriam Adelson. That's who I was referring to.
Oh, that's the casino stuff, right? Adelson? Yeah.
But go ahead. I didn't mean to cut you off. I just wanted to make sure I didn't throw something out there.
What was the point, though, with her donation?
The point is that people having donors and having access to pockets puts you in a position to be corrupted, because you're going to feel like you have to scratch their back if they help you out that much.
I mean, look, at this point, you shouldn't be able to get quid pro quo for donations. I don't know. I mean, there's some kind of legislation. I don't know. I guess I haven't looked into it enough to know how the system works. I just know that you're absolutely right. It's human nature. You can't give someone money and then expect, not to them ask you, it's like a favor, like you'd rather somebody owe you a favor rather than owe you money, because a favor is so obtuse. You could go so much, it's so much more powerful. And think about that. Yeah, you're underneath someone's thumb. Anytime someone gives you something, you're under their thumb. That's the age-old saying, there's no such thing as a free lunch. And that absolutely, bro, is the freaking truth. There is absolutely no such thing as a free lunch. Everything has a freaking cost. And that's what socialists don't understand. Right. Socialists don't understand whether it's...
That's a fact.
And here's where they really get lost, and this makes their brains blow up. They don't understand human capital. And what I mean by that is that they probably do actually understand it. I actually am probably being ignorant here, and they're probably smarter than me. What I mean by that is that maybe they just play dumb. I don't know. But socialists don't understand that. And maybe they should read Atlas Shrugged. They don't understand that eventually people will stop doing things if they're not incentivized to do it. And people don't want to be equal. And what I mean by that is that I don't want, if I don't have the ability to look at you, Len, and say, I want the option to potentially have a better car than Len, that's going to kill you deep down inside. Because human beings are competitive, and they want that. That's a human condition. They want those things. I want a bigger cave. I want a prettier bone in my wife's hair, going 2,000 years back, right? Just kind of being silly with it. But that is exactly what socialists don't understand.
I want a prettier wife.
Yeah. I don't want to live. Like, exactly. This is exactly
human nature. Human nature.
We were talking about this the other day. Have you seen this, Len? It's popular here in Texas, but now it's becoming a problem, where you see whole subtracts with like 150 houses in it, and they're only rentals. You understand what I'm saying? So like imagine imagine your housing, you live in a housing tract, right? Like a master plan. Imagine your whole tract, Len, is owned by ABC company and they're all renters. No one can ever own the houses in there. Do you understand what I'm talking about? That's crazy.
Exactly what you're talking about.
And I said, do you know why it's becoming a problem? I said, because you walk out of your door every day and you go, shoot, I can never be better than the guy across the street from me because he's a renter too, or he doesn't own that house. We're all in the same situation. We're all renting the same house. Like, can you imagine that? That's communism. It's like a more retarded way of capital communism, right? Or democratic socialism, right? Democratic. So yeah, I want a bigger car than you. I want a bigger house than you. Maybe I don't. Maybe I want to go buy a classic car, and my classic car is more expensive than your modern car. But I want to be able to drive around in a 1963 Chevy. I don't know. See, that's the thing that socialists don't get. They don't understand that people work and kill themselves to work because it's theirs. They feel accomplished for getting it.
I think socialism is one of the worst economic systems because it's so insidious. And let me explain what I mean. People in power who look to exercise socialism as an economic system, they promise the world, which is you get free healthcare, you get free transportation, you get free education, and people are naturally inclined to want the path of least resistance. So the overwhelming majority of people want something for nothing. But you also have the problem is by the time people buy into that, it's already too late, because once the economic system is set up and then people begin to rise up, now they have no power because they don't have a way to fight against the power structure that has been created under a socialist regime, because now the people are fighting against the governmental system. And so when you have people, to your point, that says, look, I'm willing to go out and bust my butt to go and have a bigger house, to go out and have a better vacation, to go out and have a nicer car. That's a smaller percentage of the population, but that small percentage of the population is what creates the jobs for the other people who don't want to take the time to take the risk. And that's the reason why capitalism works and socialism does not work, because under a capitalistic system, as long as it's fueled by democracy, the people are the ones that are supposed to control who gets into power to represent their points of views. And so coming back to this conversation about people gaining power on their rise by being supported by lobbyists and by being supported by different finance contributions, then what ends up happening is they get corrupted along the way. So instead of serving the people, they end up serving the interest of themselves and of the people who are supporting them. And that's where this whole thing gets corrupted. And so having capitalism with democracy gives us the best opportunity to have the representation of the people, by the people, and for the people, but it's individual corruptions and greed that fuels people. And I just wish that there was an answer to it, but I don't know what that is, Chris. And when you see all of this corruption and you see these rich people getting away with, violating little girls and all these Epstein files, not getting unredacted and getting released, it just goes and it makes the rest of us say, you know what, man, if you have a certain income level, you get access to power, and you can end up being above the law. And that's where, if that corruption continues to spread, then people lose trust in the system. And when people lose trust in the system, then what ends up happening? That's when you start to get dissatisfaction. You start to get friction. And if that friction blows up into a powder keg, that's when you've got revolution that happens. So obviously I'm not trying to be pessimistic, but if you paint the dots and you just paint that picture out, into perpetuity, That's reason why people end up going from being in a place where, in Germany, people are living their lives, having a nice, prosperous world. And then the economy shifts, a strong man rises up, and people start to focus on that. And that's how you get the rise of Nazism. These things happen. It happened in Russia. It happened in Germany, and it happened in Japan. It happened in China. There's no way that anybody in their right mind could say that it cannot happen in current times. Even though we have access to more information, when the economy breaks down, it can explode and turn like that.
Yeah, Germany's economy is not doing really well right now. I mean, they're just announced like the cuts and all kinds of stuff. But yeah, it's always dangerous whenever you stop making merit the top rewarding currency.
100% agree.
It's the only way to measure. It's the only way to reward and measure reward, because it's time put in, it's effort put in, it's work put in, it's enterprise value created. So it's just like, it's insane when people say, "Oh, Elon Musk should be worth $1 trillion." Come on, guys, think about enterprise value. The dude pays more taxes than God himself does, right? I mean, obviously that's a joke, but to make it facetious or to make it a little obscene, but he does. I mean, the amount of the base that he pays, and we're not even talking about the fact that all the employees he employs and the payroll taxes.
He doesn't pay as much income tax per dollar he makes, but the amount of overall net taxes he pays is an order of magnitude over anybody.
For a second, this is where the socialists don't understand this. Think about all the jobs he created. Okay. Now think about all the tax returns that have to get filed because of all the jobs he created. Do you see that? Are you seeing the multiplicational factor of what is happening in the world today when you see
Just take Twitter by itself. The tax base that's created by the income tax generated because that company.
It's just look.
Then we didn't talk about Tesla. We didn't talk about Boring. Does he have his issues? Yes, of course. Is he the most influential, arguably the most influential, consequential human being that's ever lived?
Yes,
from an economic standpoint, I don't think you could objectively disagree with that. I want to switch gears, man. As we wrap up last topic, we've been trying to get to this for the last couple of weeks, because we do try to talk about our bodies and our health and our wellness and everything. And there was a couple of studies that came out, and they've been studying this recently, which is about microplastics. And I don't know if you had a chance to look at that, but the whole challenge with microplastics here in California, they actually stopped allowing you to buy plastic bags. And so we used to charge 10 cents per bag. They've stopped all of that. But coming back to the issue of microplastics.
So wait, you can't get plastic bags at all in California anymore?
Not anymore. You can use them, but you can't purchase them. They're not for sale anymore. They're not for purchase. Yeah.
I think that's great, by the way, that you can't purchase them anymore.
I agree.
But then I think a lot of retailers should make paper bags again then.
They do. So they now sell paper bags.
Now that's where I have a problem. Why are we paying for paper bags?
100% agree.
I know what you're talking about. I was in California in April, and I felt like a criminal walking out of Walmart because they don't have bags. None. Like there were no bags. And I felt like a criminal having to walk out of my house, the store like this. And
right. I'm
like, this is retarded right here. What's going on right now?
Yeah. Right? What are your thoughts about no doubt. So do you have any opinions about microplastics? I got a couple of things I want to share, but I wanted to get your thoughts about it.
I just recently watched a documentary. I think I suggested it to you, actually.
You did,
and the microplastic things. I'm still working on it right now, but as I've progressed over the last 8 years now, almost 10 years. What is it? I'm going to be 40. I don't even remember how old I am. I think I'm going to be 45 this July.
Yeah,
it's either 44 or 45. I can't remember.
You're going to be 45, Chris.
Is that it? Okay, yeah, that's right. Because you're 1 year, you're 9 years different.
I'm 9 years older than you.
You're 9 years older. Okay, so I was looking at it, and I was going through this journey, and it starts, with the fitness stuff, and then the food and all those things. And then I want to say like probably like the last year now, I've really like, cause you're just like, okay, what else? And the plastics thing, I really started studying the plastics thing, the microplastics things, and down to the underwear. And this is where I started having a conversation because I have 4 boys. And I was like, look, you guys can't wear you can't wear underwear that has polyester in it anymore because of the microplastics. And I started getting really, really dialed into that stuff and looking at that stuff. And I started making the correlations, you know, and then we look fast forward at this documentary I talk about is about infertility issues. And this doctor, her whole premise is around the microplastics specifically causing, fertility problems in men because of the microplastics. So she had this whole regimen, but the reality is if you watch it, her method, these patients that followed it and did a, microplastics detox, like I think 80% of them ended up have kids. So, and then they just recently released this new study where where was it? I can't remember where it was, but 100% of the people have at least a pound of microplastics in their brain or something crazy like that. Right? Like it's absolutely crazy how much plastics we now have. It's in the bottles, it's in the water lines, it's in the food we eat. Even glass bottled water has it. Like there's this app called Oasis you can download, and because they independently lab test stuff. So the microplastic thing is a big deal. It's a very big problem. And it's endocrine disruption. So when we look at all the issues that people have today, like the big thing is the endocrine disruption, which is the hormones, and the fertility. Those are the 2 biggest things that we're starting to see with the microplastics, and birth rates are declining. So I do think it's a big issue, but there is good news on it. And I don't know if you know the good news, but I'll let you I think you wanted to reply here on that, but there is some good news with it.
Yeah. So just to piggyback on some of your points, there was a study done in 2024 in the New England Journal of Medicine, and they found that many of the patients who suffered from microplastics in their bodies, they had plastic particles in the plaque. And what that did is it created a higher risk of heart attack or stroke. Okay, so that's one. Another study in 2025 is showed that they found microplastics in the human brain, to your point earlier, and the liver and kidney samples, and also most brains showing 7 to 30 times higher concentrations than liver, kidneys, or the liver or kidney samples. So meaning the blood, so the microplastics penetrate the blood-brain barrier, pass through your blood, it gets into your brain. And so I wanted to turn it back over to you. Then after that, I'll wrap up with some things that we can do to stop the bombardment of microplastics into our bodies, because there isn't any study that shows that a pill or some type of vaccination is going to eliminate it. It's a lifestyle choice.
Yeah. I think first and foremost, especially for guys, because you said, I didn't know, I knew it had an issue with cardiovascular, but it makes sense now because, the blood pressure thing is the issue, right? With our insulin resistance and blood pressure, where the scarring and not sleeping enough, right? So there's all these different factors, right? It's like if you've ever read the book, I think it's called Tipping Point. I think it's in Tipping Point or something to that, one of those books. And it talks about aviation disasters, and it talks about disasters in general. And it's usually a series of it's usually between like 5 to 7 events that cascade or compound on each other that create a catastrophic failure. So, when you look at your body or you look at yourself, usually it's okay, your insulin resistance, you have massive hypertension, or you have high blood pressure, and your LDL is bad, or your cholesterol is completely out of whack, right? Or you're not sleeping enough, right? So you add all those together. Did you know that cardiovascular healing can only happen in REM sleep?
Wow.
Did you know that?
I did not.
So, or something to that effect. It's either deep sleep or REM sleep or something. I want to say it's REM sleep.
Okay.
But cardiovascular healing can only happen, or it might be it only happens when you sleep. I want to say it's,
but it's connected to sleeping habits. Okay.
Yeah. And cardiovascular healing means, because your vascular system is constantly under stress, right? It's one of the systems. If you fast, your GI is no longer having to process, right? But your cardiovascular system is always pumping. So when you lose that endophelia function and the nitric oxide production and the ability for the arteries to be very, very relaxed and vascular, they stretch. And when they stretch, you create that scarring, right, in the arteries. And then, of course, the cholesterol comes in to fix it, because if you don't have, everything's built on cholesterol. Everything. If you don't have cholesterol, you're dead, right? You'll die. Muscle, everything is built off cholesterol, right? It's why when you die, birds will eat your eyes first, because they're primarily cholesterol. Most, that's the nice big juicy fat that they want to eat. So if you're not sleeping right, your arteries can't heal right. If you have blood pressure, it's constantly not high blood pressure, but chronic, consistent high blood pressure, where it's like running your engine on full blast, right? All the time. Eventually you're going to throw a rod or burn a piston ring or something, right? So those arteries don't have a chance to go and then get relaxed. So you compound all of those things. The microplastic comes with the freaking cholesterol, gets stuck in that hole, and exacerbates the situation.
Absolutely, it does. So let's talk about some ways to reduce it. So some of them are commonsensical, but I want to talk about some specific ones just in case our audience doesn't know. So one is this is a big one, stop microwaving food in plastic.
Ooh.
So think about all of the to-go containers that are in styrofoam, and then you heat it up and then it melts onto the food and you kind of just scrape it off. You're not scraping off the microplastics that are getting in there. You can't see it. So cook in ceramic or glass when you put it in the microwave. Next, cut back on plastic bottled water, especially when safe other forms of water are available. So a lot of places, have good quality tap water. Unfortunately, here in California, I would not recommend tap water because there's a lot of fluoride and other things in it that I would prefer not to have.
Nasty stuff.
But if you can avoid water in plastic bottles, especially when they're in the car. So if you have plastic bottles, like for example, before I learned about this, I go hiking on a regular basis, and I would keep plastic water bottles in the car. Just say, okay, I want to make sure I'm hydrated. And so on a summer day, inside of the car can get up to 120, 130, 140 degrees. So imagine all of those little microplastic, the microplastic that I'm consuming when I drink that water. Even if I cool it down, once the plastic is heated up, you still cool it down. You're still ingesting it. So do that. And then also reduce unnecessary single-use plastics. So, microplastics, it says, comes from higher plastics that break down over time. So things like, plastic wrappings, takeout containers. So if you leave them in there over a long period of time, or even like when you go to the store and you put soda in those, and it has wax in it to keep the bottle from getting saturated and having leakage. Well, if you leave the water in
Coffee
there
cups.
Yes, all of those things that leaches into your drinking. So definitely eliminate that. And then be careful about all of the detox claims that are out there. There is no pill. There is no substance you can take. The only way you can reduce plastic is by just eliminating your consumption of it. Like you'll notice, I drink my water in this. Notice you never see me with the plastic cup. Why? Because I want to reduce the amount of exposure that I have to microplastics. So
I've had a stainless steel vessel for probably almost 5 years now. The big problem that I have to work on still, though, is I still buy a lot of bottled water just because it's like, it's so difficult.
What's your alternative? Yeah. I mean, I buy the big 5-gallon ones.
Yeah. I try to buy it in liters and stuff like that,
Yeah.
But a good way, too, is sauna. If you sauna 3 times a week, it reduces microplastics tremendously in your body. So sauna is good. Even sun tanning, like real sun tanning. I know a lot of people are scared to go in the sun.
How so? Like, are you saying that process allows your body to eliminate it?
Yes. It's similar to the sauna experience. The sauna, release when you're sweating out that stuff. It forces that stuff out of your body. So
Okay.
and I'm a big proponent of that, a sauna, and I'm a big proponent of sunbathing. I think it's amazing for you. You should be out in the sun, a morning sun, all of that stuff, morning sun, grounding.
100%. Yeah.
But yeah, sauna is really good for especially for men.
Okay.
For
Okay.
relieving microplastics. In fact,
My thing is abstinence. Try to avoid it, but if we all have it.
Ultimately take away, right? Take away. I don't want to have to do as much therapy. I'm going to look it up for you right now. Microplastics. Sauna for microplastics. Saw microplastics. Yeah. So, there's a lot of back and forth on it. It's very popular amongst.
Interesting.
In fact, what is it? Brian Johnson. Brian Johnson came out. He's a big proponent of sauna for microplastics, and he actually does a lot of study. If you've ever looked at his stuff, he does a lot of study behind it. So either way, sauna is good for you, anyways. But yeah,
100%.
Glass containers. I threw away all the black ones, especially only glass containers. No more rotisserie chicken. The black bag from Costco anymore. Sorry, Len. I know that's a favorite of yours, but I mean, But anyways, yeah, be mindful about obviously what you're using, and
absolutely.
Look, get rid of this Teflon pans. Look, stainless steel is easy to cook with. You just have to preheat it right. You get the
put the right
iron.
oils in there. Yeah.
Yeah. If you're sensitive to iron, cast iron, maybe don't use it all the time, but just these things that you can be mindful about. I call it the 1980s rule. I mean, just kind of think about the way it was in the 1980s.
Right.
And maybe, and while it wasn't all the way safe, maybe you ought to call it the 1960s rule. But then again, there was a lot of things that were bad. We had lead paint.
So. Right, exactly. There's always something. But your point is, the smarter we become, we need to adjust and take away, go back, take the good out, and take the bad out as well. Man, Chris, as always, brother, it's always good to have these conversations with you. And only time will tell to see which one of us ultimately ends up being right. We will see, man.
One more week. So far, you're down. So if it's a soccer match, I'm 1 and you're 0 right now. So just so you know.
All right. Sounds good, man. Well, we will see what happens by the time next Monday rolls around.
When oil's at 60 or 55, what do you think? Is it going to be 60 or $55
by this time? By this
will
time,
you surrender then? Will you surrender then and go, Chris?
When I see Iran doing what they say they're going to do, and they continue to have the ceasefire, I'll surrender. I don't think that's going to happen. But hey, man, I'm a person who's after truth, man. I'm not trying to be right.
I love it.
Yeah.
It's not about being right. It's about being effective.
That's it, man. That's it. That's it, man.
If you like, subscribe, comment. We'll see you guys on the next one.
Conversation has given you clarity on your next steps. Please share this episode with someone who's walking the same path. Don't forget to like and subscribe so you won't miss future episodes. And remember, planning ahead isn't just prudent, it's an act of care. Thanks for joining us, and we'll see you next time on The Family Office.